The diplomatic vessel. Harmony emerged from hyperspace like a silver needle threading through the cosmic tapestry, its hull gleaming against the backdrop of the Andorian nebula. Ambassador Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the viewport, watching, as the crystalline spires of Zephyr Prime materialized before them, a planet that seemed to be carved from living diamond, refracting starlight into prismatic rainbows that danced across its surface. "Magnificent," she whispered, her breath fogging the reinforced glass steel. After 3 months of deep space travel, anything would have been beautiful, but this world exceeded every briefing she'd received back on Earth. "Ambassador, we're receiving clearance to dock at the Royal Platform," announced Captain Rodriguez from the bridgecom. "The Queen's escort vessels are approaching." Elena straightened her formal diplomatic attire, a deep blue ensemble that represented Earth's oceans, chosen specifically for this historic first meeting. The weight of humanity's future pressed upon her shoulders. The Void Collective had already consumed 17 systems in the Outer Rim, their dark ships spreading, like a plague across known space. Earth needed allies, and the Zephyrian Empire was their best hope. 3 sleek vessels approached, their surfaces rippling like liquid mercury. They moved with an organic grace that suggested biotechnology far beyond human understanding. Elena's training kicked in. Observe everything, assume nothing, maintain dignity at all costs. The docking process was seamless, as if the alien technology read the Harmony's intentions rather than relying on mechanical precision. Elena walked through the airlock into an environment that defied her expectations. Instead of sterile corridors, she found herself in what could only be described as a living garden. Crystalline walls pulsed with soft bioluminescence, while flowering vines created natural pathways through chambers that seemed to breathe with life itself. Her escort was a tall, graceful being with translucent skin and silver hair that moved, as if underwater. "Welcome, Ambassador Elena Vasquez of Earth," the being spoke with a voice like wind chimes. "I am Advisor Kieran. Her radiance awaits your presence in the throne of echoes." They walked through corridors that adapted to their presence, walls shifting color and luminosity as they passed. Elena noted everything, the way light seemed to respond to emotion, how the very architecture appeared designed for beings who communicated beyond mere words. Her xenobiology training hadn't prepared her for anything quite like this. The throne chamber took her breath away. It was a vast, crystalline cavern with a ceiling that opened to the stars above. Streams of liquid light flowed like rivers through, channels carved into the floor converging at a raised dais where a figure of impossible beauty waited. Queen Seraphina was luminescent perfection, tall and elegant with skin that seemed to contain captured starlight. Her eyes were deep violet pools that held ancient wisdom, and when she smiled, Elena felt warmth that reached beyond the physical into something deeper. "Ambassador Vasquez." The Queen's voice resonated not just in Elena's ears but seemed to echo in her mind. "Your arrival brings hope to dark times. Please approach without fear." Elena walked forward, each step echoing in the vast space. She had rehearsed this moment countless times, but nothing had prepared her for the Queen's presence, a mixture of regal authority and profound compassion that made her feel simultaneously humbled and elevated. "Your Radiance," Elena began, offering the formal bow she'd practiced. "I come bearing Earth's gratitude for this audience and hope for alliance against our common enemy." The Queen descended from her throne with fluid grace. "Yes, the Void Collective threatens us all. But tell me, Ambassador, what does your species understand of loyalty?" The question caught Elena off guard. "Loyalty, Your Radiance?" Queen Seraphina circled her slowly, those violet eyes seeming to peer into Elena's very soul. "Treaties are written on fragile materials, Ambassador. Words can be forgotten, promises broken. How does humanity prove the sincerity of its heart?" Elena's diplomatic training hadn't prepared her for the Queen's piercing question about loyalty. She chose her words carefully, aware that entire civilizations hung in the balance. "On Earth, loyalty is demonstrated through actions over time," Elena replied, "through consistency, sacrifice, and standing together in adversity." Queen Seraphina's expression grew thoughtful, her luminescent skin shifting to deeper hues. How beautifully limited your understanding is, dear ambassador. Among my people, loyalty cannot wait for time to prove itself. When darkness approaches, as it does now with the Void Collective, we must know with absolute certainty where hearts truly lie. The Queen gestured, and the crystalline walls around them came alive with moving images, scenes of past betrayals, allies who had fled when the Zephyrians needed them most, treaties signed in good faith only to be abandoned when convenient. I have ruled for 3 centuries, Seraphina continued, her voice carrying the weight of accumulated wisdom and pain. I have watched civilizations promise aid, only to retreat to safety while my people bled among the stars. Words, ambassador, are as fragile as morning mist. Elena felt a chill of understanding. What are you asking of me, your radiance? The Queen moved closer, her presence both overwhelming and oddly comforting. Among the Zephyrians, true loyalty can only be proven through Kethmoran, the sacred bonding. It is an ancient ritual where minds and souls become intertwined, making deception impossible. I don't understand, Elena stammered, though part of her was beginning to comprehend the implications. Seraphina's hand touched Elena's cheek with surprising gentleness. Through that contact, Elena felt a flood of emotions, not her own, but the Queen's. Loneliness that spanned decades, the burden of leadership, the desperate hope that this alliance might save both their peoples. The ritual involves the complete joining of 2 beings, the Queen explained, her voice softer now. Mind to mind, heart to heart, body to body. Only through such intimate connection can we truly know the depths of one's commitment. Elena's breath caught. You're asking me to. I am asking you to prove that humanity's word means more than convenient sounds, Seraphina said, pulling her hand away. The bonding creates an unbreakable connection between souls. Once joined, betrayal becomes impossible. We would feel each other's pain, share each other's joy, know each other's truth. The chamber fell silent except for the gentle flow of liquid light through the floor channels. Elena's mind raced through the implications. This wasn't just diplomacy anymore. It was something far more personal and profound. I need to understand more about this ritual, Elena said carefully. What exactly does it involve? The Queen's eyes softened with something that might have been relief. The Kethmoran is sacred, not casual. It begins with the opening of minds. I would share my memories, my fears, my deepest truths with you, and you with me. Then comes the joining of hearts. Emotional barriers dissolve, and 2 souls become as one. Finally, she paused, her luminescent skin taking on a warmer glow, the physical union that seals the bond eternally. Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks. And this is necessary for the alliance? It is the only way I can trust completely, Seraphina replied. My people have suffered too much from false promises. If Earth truly seeks our aid, its representative must be willing to bind herself to us in the most profound way possible. The weight of decision pressed upon Elena. She thought of Earth, of the Void Collective's advancing darkness, of millions of lives hanging in the balance. But she also found herself thinking of the Queen herself, the loneliness in those violet eyes, the vulnerability beneath the regal exterior. How long do I have to decide? Elena asked. The Void Collective advances daily, Seraphina replied. Each moment of delay costs lives, but I will not force this choice upon you, Ambassador. The Kethmoran must be entered willingly, or it fails. Entirely. Elena nodded, her heart pounding with the magnitude of what lay before her. Elena spent the night in chambers that defied earthly architecture, walls that responded to her emotional state with shifting colors and gentle sounds that seemed designed to soothe her troubled mind. Sleep came fitfully, filled with dreams, of violet eyes and the weight of impossible choices. Morning brought advisor Kieran with an invitation to join the Queen for a private meal. Elena found Seraphina in a garden chamber where bioluminescent flowers created a canopy of living light overhead. The queen had shed her formal robes for something simpler, a flowing garment that made her appear more approachable, more human, despite her otherworldly beauty. "You look troubled, Ambassador," Serafina observed as they shared exotic fruits that tasted like captured sunshine. "I've been thinking about your proposal all night," Elena admitted. "It's not just about diplomacy, anymore, is it?" The queen's laugh was like silver bells. "Was it ever only about diplomacy? The moment you stepped into my throne room, I felt something I hadn't experienced in decades. Genuine curiosity about another being's thoughts and feelings." Their eyes met across the small table, and Elena felt that same strange pull she'd experienced the day before. "Tell me about yourself," she said impulsively. Not the queen, but the person beneath the crown. Serafina's expression grew thoughtful. "I was barely past my first century when I took the throne after my mother's death in the Crimson War. 300 years of ruling, of making choices that affect billions of lives, of standing alone at the apex of power." She reached across the table, her fingers brushing Elena's hand. "Do you know what true loneliness feels like, Ambassador?" The touch sent warmth racing up Elena's arm. "I thought I did. But seeing you in that throne room, surrounded by all that grandeur yet somehow isolated," Elena found herself opening up in ways her diplomatic training warned against. "I lost my partner 2 years ago in a transport accident. Since then, I've thrown myself into my work, convinced that duty could fill the emptiness." "And has it?" Serafina asked gently. "No," Elena admitted. "It's just made the quiet moments louder." The queen stood and moved to a flowering vine, her fingers trailing along its luminescent petals. "The Kethmoran isn't merely a political tool, Elena. May I call you Elena?" "Yes," Elena replied, surprised by how much she wanted to hear her name, spoken in that melodious voice. "The bonding creates something beautiful between two souls," Serafina continued. "In our recorded history, there have been fewer than 1,000 such unions. Each one created partnerships that changed our world for the better." Elena joined her beside the vine, drawn by something beyond conscious choice. "What would happen to me? Would I still be me?" "You would be more yourself than ever before," Serafina said, turning to face her. "The bonding doesn't erase individuality. It amplifies it through connection. You would feel my emotions as clearly as your own, understand my thoughts as if they were yours, but your own essence would remain intact and treasured." They stood close now, close enough that Elena could see flecks of gold in those violet eyes, could feel the warmth radiating from the queen's luminescent skin. "I'm frightened," Elena whispered. "So am I," Serafina replied, her voice equally soft. "It has been so long since I opened my heart to another. The vulnerability is overwhelming." Elena found herself reaching up to touch the queen's face, marveling at the silky warmth of her skin. "What if we're making a mistake? What if this is just desperation driving us together?" Serafina leaned into the touch, her eyes closing briefly. "Then we'll face that mistake together. But Elena, what I feel when I look at you, it's not desperation, it's hope. For the first time in decades, I feel hope for something beyond duty and survival." The space between them seemed to shrink until Elena could feel Serafina's breath against her lips. The moment stretched, filled with possibility, and the weight of unspoken longing. "If I agree to this," Elena said softly, "there's no going back." "Is there?" "None," Serafina confirmed. "But perhaps going back isn't what either of us truly wants." Elena's heart raced as she realized the truth in those words. Elena stood before the mirror in her chambers, her reflection showing a woman on the threshold of transformation. She had sent word to Queen Serafina that morning. She would accept the Kethmoran. The decision felt both terrifying and inevitable, as if her entire life had been leading to this moment. The queen had arranged for the ceremony to take place in her private sanctuary, a chamber at the heart of the crystalline palace where the very walls pulsed with ancient power. When Elena arrived, escorted by Kieran, she found the space transformed. Soft bioluminescent pools cast dancing light across surfaces carved with intricate symbols, while flowing curtains of liquid starlight created an atmosphere of sacred intimacy. Seraphina waited at the chamber's center, clothed in gossamer robes that seemed woven from moonbeams. Her beauty was breathtaking, but it was the vulnerability in her eyes that made Elena's heart race. "Are you certain?" the queen asked as Elena approached. "Once begun, the Kethmoran cannot be undone." "I'm certain," Elena replied, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "Not just for the Alliance, but for us. For whatever this is between us." Seraphina smiled, her luminescence brightening. "Then let us begin with truth. The first stage requires us to lower all mental barriers, to share our deepest memories and fears." They sat facing each other on cushions that molded themselves to their forms. Seraphina reached out, taking Elena's hands in hers. The moment their skin touched, Elena felt a shift, as if a door in her mind had opened. "Don't resist," Seraphina whispered, her voice seeming to come from within Elena's own thoughts. "Let me see who you truly are." The experience was overwhelming. Elena felt Seraphina's memories flooding through her. Centuries of rulership, the weight of countless decisions, moments of joy and triumph interwoven with periods of crushing loneliness. In return, she shared her own life, her childhood on Earth, her diplomatic training, the loss of her partner, her desperate hope that this mission might save her world. Tears flowed down both their faces as they experienced each other's pain and joy with perfect clarity. Elena saw through Seraphina's eyes the attacks that had devastated Zephyrian colonies, felt the queen's anguish at being unable to save everyone. Seraphina, in turn, experienced Elena's grief at losing Sarah, understood the depth of her commitment to protecting humanity. "The second stage," Seraphina whispered, their foreheads touching now. "The joining of hearts." This was more intense still. Elena could feel Seraphina's emotions as if they were her own. The queen's growing love, her desperate hope, her fear of being vulnerable again. The boundaries between their emotional selves began to blur until Elena couldn't tell where her feelings ended and Seraphina's began. Love bloomed between them, not the desperate attraction born of circumstances, but something deeper and more profound. Elena realized that what she felt for the queen had grown beyond politics or duty into something genuine and transformative. "Elena," Seraphina breathed, her voice heavy with emotion and desire. "The final stage. Are you ready?" Elena nodded, her body trembling with anticipation and nervous energy. "I love you," she whispered, the words feeling both surprising and inevitable. "And I love you," Seraphina replied, her hands beginning to trace the contours of Elena's face with reverent tenderness. What followed was a union that transcended the merely physical. As their bodies came together in the ancient dance of love, their minds remained connected, sharing every sensation, every emotion, every moment of pleasure and connection. Elena experienced not just her own responses but Seraphina's as well, creating a feedback loop of intimacy that was almost overwhelming in its intensity. They moved together with growing passion, their connection deepening with each touch, each kiss, each whispered endearment. The bioluminescent pools around them seemed to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats, the very chamber responding to their union. When the culmination came, it was with a shared cry of completion that seemed to shake the crystalline walls themselves. Elena felt something fundamental shift within her, a new awareness, a presence that was unmistakably Seraphina woven into the fabric of her being. They lay entwined afterward, their bodies still trembling from the intensity of their joining. Elena could feel Seraphina's contentment as clearly as her own, could sense the queen's thoughts without effort. "It is done," Seraphina whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "We are bonded, mind and soul, for all time." Elena smiled, feeling complete in a way she had never imagined possible. 3 months after the Kethmoran, Elena stood on the bridge of the flagship Radiance watching as the combined human-Zephyrian fleet engaged the Void Collective in the decisive battle for the Kepler system. Through her bond with Seraphina, she could feel the Queen's tactical thoughts, their minds working in perfect harmony to coordinate the unprecedented alliance. Enemy dreadnought approaching from Sector 7, reported Captain Martinez, Elena's human liaison officer. I see it, Elena replied, though she was seeing it through Seraphina's enhanced perception aboard her command vessel. Vector the Meridian, squadron to flank from the nebula while Queen Seraphina's forces provide covering fire. The battle was fierce but brief. The Void Collective, accustomed to fighting divided enemies, found themselves unable to counter the seamless cooperation between two species who fought as one. Within hours, the dark ships were retreating into deep space. Their expansion halted for the first time in years. Victory, Seraphina's voice whispered in Elena's mind, warm with triumph and love. Our peoples fight as true allies. Elena smiled, touching the crystalline pendant at her throat, a gift from Seraphina that allowed them to maintain their connection across vast distances. More than allies, family. Later, in the quiet of Elena's quarters, she composed her final report to Earth's diplomatic council. The alliance was secure, the immediate threat neutralized, but her role had evolved far beyond what anyone had imagined. I will not be returning to Earth as planned, she dictated to her recording device. The bond I've formed with Queen Seraphina is not merely political, but personal and permanent. I can serve humanity's interests better by remaining here as our permanent ambassador and cultural liaison. She paused, thinking of how to explain what couldn't truly be explained to those who hadn't experienced it. The Kethmaran has changed, me in ways I'm still discovering. I am still Elena Vasquez, still committed to protecting humanity, but I am also something new. A bridge between our species, a living symbol of the alliance we've forged. Seraphina entered the chamber as Elena finished her recording, moving with that fluid grace that never failed to take Elena's breath away. Through their bond, Elena felt the Queen's amusement at her diplomatic language. Still being cautious with words, my love? Seraphina asked, settling beside Elena and drawing her into her arms. Old habits, Elena replied, relaxing into the familiar warmth. Though I think they'll understand eventually. The results speak for themselves. Indeed they do, Seraphina agreed, her fingers tracing the patterns of bioluminescence that had begun appearing on Elena's skin, a side effect of their bonding that marked her as truly part of both worlds. The Void Collective's retreat has given us time to plan for their inevitable return, and with our forces united, they won't stand a chance, Elena finished, her confidence absolute. Through their connection, she could feel the strength of their combined civilizations, the unshakable foundation they had built together. As they sat together in comfortable silence, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had come seeking a military alliance and found something far more precious. A love that transcended species, a partnership that had already begun reshaping both their worlds. The future stretched before them, full of challenges and possibilities. There would be more battles to fight, more diplomatic bridges to build, more cultural barriers to overcome. But they would face it all together, their bond unbreakable, their love a beacon of hope in a vast and often dangerous universe. No regrets? Seraphina asked softly, her voice carrying both confidence and the slightest trace of uncertainty. Elena turned in her arms, meeting those violet eyes that had first captured her heart, only that it took a war to bring us together. Seraphina's laugh was like music, filling the chamber with joy. Then perhaps we should be grateful for the universe's sense of timing. As they kissed, Elena felt the future opening before them, like a flower blooming among the stars, bright with promise and infinite with possibility.